Been dealing with this since elementary. It's like I tell you a joke, I tell you a joke and then you laugh and you get caught. That's what happened. Lance told me a joke, I laughed, the teacher caught me. Now I gotta go see the principal, so that's what happened.
Welcome to SI Now. I'm Robin Lundberg here with Amy Kim. What are you doing?
Just getting my Lance Stevenson on, very inspired.
I'll shoot you a LeBron at Lance look. Meanwhile, let's welcome in our NBA analyst, John Starks. And John, I know that LeBron would never say it, but inside, how much do you think he hates Lance Stevenson?
I don't think he hates him. I think he thinks that this is fun. This is playoff is all about competitive individual and Lance Stevenson. He's trying to get at him, but LeBron been through so much during his years in the NBA and during the playoffs, so I don't think he minded at all.
It helps when you win the game, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Cavs have seized control of this series a little bit. They blew the second half of Game 3, but they've looked like the better team to me in Games 3 and 4, and they figured out a way to guard Oladipo with those blitzing schemes, taking him out of it a little bit. Do you think the Pacers lost this series in Game 4 at home?
I think it was a big game for them. I think they really needed to win that game, just from a confidence standpoint. They are a team that obviously has been put together over the course of the summer and really not had a lot of playoff experience playing together. So that was a big confident game that they needed to win. For LeBron, obviously, he knew the importance of this. As you can see by the minutes that he played, that he had to get this game. He didn't want to go back down 3-1.
Isn't it funny, the one criticism of LeBron is kind of, why don't you do everything on every play on both ends?
That's true. That's true. And he's doing everything, even buying them suits. So I think, that was a key game. Game 5 is going to be very tough for Indiana to go in Cleveland and try to get a Game 5, knowing LeBron knows how important that game is.
Well, the reigning champs looking mortal after failing to sweep the Spurs. The Warriors weren't able to close that one out. Now they're going to have probably the Pelicans, who are now resting. Do you think that that's a big deal that they weren't able to close out the sweep when their future opponent was able to do it?
I think it's very important when you got a chance to close the team out, you close them out because rest is so important during the playoffs and making sure that you get those series over with when you can. And so for them, they know that Curry is probably going to be back some point in time. They're not sure when. And the Pelicans are playing great basketball right now. So they resting and really get a chance to really look at how they're going to play the Warriors. Because more than likely, the Spurs, I don't think they can beat the Warriors. So more than likely, it's going to be the Warriors. So they get a chance to sit down and really hone in on what they're going to do against the Warriors.
Well, the Pelicans, like you said, playing great basketball right now. Steve Kerr saying that the Warriors are probably going to be without Steph for a while. How tough of a matchup do you think this is going to be for the Warriors? Do you think this will be their biggest challenge?
I think the Pelican will be their biggest challenge, just from the standpoint of that Rondo, who knows how to win a championship. He then won a championship with Boston, knows how to control a game. Moving Holiday off the ball and putting him at the 2 and let him be who he is has been a big plus for them, as you can see in that series against Portland. And Davis, what can you say about him? He's just playing like a man amongst boys.
If Curry isn't playing, who's the best player in that series? Is it Kevin Durant or is it Anthony Davis?
That's a good question.
That's a really good
We will find out soon. I'm not sure. Obviously Durant can take his game to another level, and Davis is showing that he can take his game to another level. So it's going to be the battle of wills, I think, in that series.
Yeah, Durant is going to be a tough cover, I think, for New Orleans, as he is for everybody. But their guards are sort of fit to go against Golden State a little bit, especially, if Curry's out, maybe they put Rondo on Iguodala, have him play off him a little bit, disrupt them getting into their offense. And then you think Holiday could take Klay Thompson out of the game?
Well, he had to go against one of the best in the game in McCollum, and you see what he did to him. And McCollum likes to put the ball on the floor. Klay, not so much. He likes to catch and shoot. And so it's a team effort when you're playing against a guy like that. I know when I played against Reggie, we had our mind focused on me personally. I stuck to him. If he went to the bathroom, I'm in there in the bathroom with them, and so you have to stick with those guys and make sure that they don't get going early.
Is it more frustrating to have to guard a guy who's constantly going around screens and one slip up it leads to a three, or a guy that you're just desperately trying to keep in front of you because they can beat you off the dribble?
Very tough. Very tough. Reggie was that type of player. Clay is that type of player. Those guys that's always on the move are guys that are very difficult to guard because you don't know where they're going to be at. If you turn your head, bam, they gone. And so it's very important that you just lock in on them. I always say when I played against Reggie, because he's like Clay, is that it's me and him and the other 8 guys going to play basketball. I'm just going to lock in on him and make sure that he doesn't get going. Clay is one of those guys, if he gets going, you're going to be in for a long night.
Just a follow-up on the first question. You said that LeBron doesn't hate Lance Stevenson. Did Reggie Miller hate you?
We probably had some love-hate relationship during that time, of course. But you know what? That's what makes it fun. That's what makes playoffs fun, because you have to have that adversary that you're going to go against, and knowing that I don't like you, you don't like me. We trying to win. We got to go at each other. And at the end of the day, once the game is over with, we shake hands and we good.
Yeah, I think we've been looking for that rivalry the past couple of years. I like to see that fire from those guys.
I do too. Yeah, it's exciting.
The East top seed, they could be in trouble a little bit as well. I thought the series was over after Toronto went up 2-0 on Washington. Never mind, they're now in the same position Cleveland is in, but it feels a little bit more threatening for Toronto now, doesn't it?
I agree with you 100%. Washington, you had them down, and now you let them get some life in them. And so going back to Toronto, that's a very important game. Obviously, we know how important Game 5s are in the series, but that's very important for them because they have a lot of, weight on their shoulders from the standpoint that they're the #1 seed coming into in the East, and knowing that the playoff troubles that they didn't had over the years, and for them to lose, if they was to lose this series, it'd be devastating.
Yeah, you have to imagine that narrative is getting into their head a little bit with it being 2-2. The Bucks win, now ties their series 2-2 with Boston. Do you think that this series will answer the question for us, Giannis versus the Celtics, the best player wins this series?
I still like Boston in this series.
Yeah.
I really do. I like that they play together as a team. I think this was just a great matchup for them, getting Milwaukee more so than any other team, because I think that Giannis obviously do what he does, through a course of a series, he can destroy you. But I think Celtics play good, grinded out basketball, and I like teams like that.
Now, if you're looking back out west, we're bouncing from east to west, like we're on some cross-country flights or something like that.
I just did it.
Hey, I mean, you got to do it sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook, after the loss to the Jazz the other night, talked about Ricky Rubio not doing what he did in that game again. How much pressure do you think is on Russell Westbrook to have the Thunder come through in the series? Because as good as the Jazz are, I feel like most people aren't that familiar with them, so it will come off looking bad for him if they do lose to Utah in the first round?
I agree with you 100%. But this team, for some reason, they play a lot better when their backs are up against the wall, just like you saw at the end of the season when they needed to win 2 out of 3 games. And the way they played against Houston, where everybody was sprinting up and down the court, even Melo was running hard. And so I think they're going to come out with a little bit more fire. This is a young team that they're playing against, a young energy team. You just can't go out there and just let the game happen. You have to take the game to them, and I think it's very important that they get off to a great start and sustain that throughout, because for some reason, they have these lapses during the game. When they get up, they tend to take just let air out, and all of a sudden Utah is back up on them. They have a very talented young team. It's a team that you cannot take for granted, and I think they've taken this team for granted.
What is it about the dynamic of playing with Russell Westbrook? Because we saw Durant left, and then Westbrook had that triple-double season, elevating the team. This year had another triple-double season, but sometimes it feels like the other guys are in the background. Paul George is inconsistent. Do you think that will affect George's decision in free agency?
I'm not sure. It's probably, he has a lot of things to think about. But for right now, he has Utah Jazz to be focused on more so than what he's going to do in the free agent aspect of it. But Westbrook is just once-in-a-lifetime generational player, the way he play. I talked to guys that I didn't play with and guys I didn't play against. they just shake their head, you know what I mean, because he's at a whole nother level than most guys out there on the court.
Now, one of his former teammates, James Harden, also now in a bit more of a series than maybe we thought, with the Wolves getting that first game in Minnesota. Are they a threat to Houston from what you've seen in this series thus far?
They can push them, but I'm not sure if they're going to win that series. They can probably take it to 5-6 games, maybe. They got a fight, a puncher's chance, as they say. But for some reason with that team, if they don't come with the energy, they're going to get blown out. And that's how I see it. And all these games, when they do play hard and they focus on the little things that they can do defensively, they have to do a lot better job on Harden, even though he struggled a little bit. But I think it's going to be probably go about 6 games.
Now that the dust has settled a little bit, we were talking about this before the show. It feels like the most unpredictable or chaotic NBA playoffs in a while. The first round has been super entertaining. Yeah. How are you feeling about the favorites in each conference? Like, which team are you thinking, all right, this is the team that's going to take the East, and all right, this is the team that's going to take the West?
Yeah. You have a coin? Because I think we could just take a flip.
Well, even just watching the Cavs game, that Game 4, I'm thinking LeBron could lose this series or they could win the East.
I agree with you 100%.
No idea what's going to happen.
It's funny, and I said this going into it, you just don't know. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the NCAA. You had an idea who's going to possibly get there, but you just don't know.
But that was one of the fair critiques of the NBA in the past, is it was a little bit more predictable. Do you think there's any chance to what Amy was just saying, that the Pacers could give the Cavs more trouble matchup-wise than even some of the higher-seeded teams in the Eastern Conference?
I think so. You know, and they're showing that, especially with Oladipo, you know what I mean, with the double teams that they have to put on him because he's just breaking everybody, even breaking LeBron down. And so, I truly believe that. But they have to – a lot of things have to happen for these teams that you think that's supposed to be the favorite in order to get through. And those things is that they have to do the little bitty things and stay focused. But at the end of the day, things seems to shake out, and the better team seems to, finish off series.
We got some comments coming in from people watching. Johnny Gilkey says Lakers going to get Leonard and LeBron James next year with Ball. Mark Butler says, no, the Pacers haven't blown it. They can beat Cleveland in Cleveland, although it would have been easier had they won last night. And Karima Foster says, John Starks was my favorite Knicks player from his era. I had a huge crush on him. I like John, too. John, thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.
As always, he's our NBA analyst here on SI Now Live. A lot has happened in the first round of the NBA playoffs, perhaps the most entertaining one I can remember. But I wanted to make sure something wasn't forgotten: the throwback performances we've seen from Dwayne Wade and Manu Ginobili. With both Miami and San Antonio on the brink of elimination, and each player approaching the end of storied NBA runs, we could be watching their last stands. And I wanted to make sure they were recognized before they call it a career. You know, give people roses while they can still smell them and all that. It just feels right to see Wade back in a Heat uniform, and he is the reason they even have a W in the series. The fact he played with Shaq early in his career and LeBron a little later should not take away from the appreciation given to him historically. One of the very best players to ever play his position. Truly an all-time great. By the way, I'm pretty sure he'll be getting guys to bite on his pump fake for all eternity. Meanwhile, Ginobili went even further in the Wayback Machine to keep the Spurs alive against the Warriors. And best a coach he used to play with. Manu is amongst the craftiest and clutchest players ever, who once was atop the basketball world as both an NBA and Olympic champion. He also has one of the most fun names to yell out in excitement. Ginobili! Shouts to Charles Barkley. So Dwayne Wade and Manu Ginobili, I salute you for all the memories. Two legends in real time. I hope you keep going. But whenever you do stop, just know the NBA and basketball are better for having you.
Counting down the days to the NFL draft, we're joined by our Jenny Rentis of the MMQB. And Jenny, it's the same question, but it seems like there's a different answer every other day. Who do you think Cleveland will take with that #1 pick?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion. Will it be Josh Allen or Sam Darnold? I think Darnold makes the most sense for a team like Cleveland, which really needs a quarterback, Darnold is regarded by most evaluators as the safest pick. He has probably the highest floor out of any of the prospects. Obviously, he had the turnover issue last season, and, coming off the fantastic Rose Bowl win against Penn State the previous year, he didn't quite solidify the hype as much as teams hoped he would in 2017, but he is, I think, as I said, regarded as the safest guy for Cleveland. I think that makes the most sense. Maybe Josh Allen has more upside, but he also has a big jump to make coming from Wyoming. A guy like Darnold is more ready to play and a safer bet, which is what Cleveland needs at number 1. They can't afford a bust at that spot.
What about the Giants at number 2? Do they take Barkley, Chubb, or trade down?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. There's been so much speculation about what the Giants do, largely because they control a lot of the draft. They sort of set the tone. What they decide is sort of a choose-your-own-adventure for the rest of the first round. Dave Gettleman hasn't ever traded back. That's not to say that he won't. I think it's likely that he stands pat and takes probably Saquon Barkley. I think Bradley Chubb is another option there at number 2 for them. But he said that, at number 2, you want to take a gold jacket type player. I think Barkley and Chubb are in that elite, group of players that, position players, obviously not a quarterback. But I think, they could change your franchise. They can make an impact right away. And I think, having those options at number 2, it makes a lot of sense to take one of them rather than trade back and risk who you might be able to get later.
So, Jenny, if the Giants do take Barkley and Darnold does go number 1 there to the Browns, how do you see the other quarterback positions shaking out as we work our way down the draft?
Yeah, it's really interesting because whoever the Browns take at number 1 also sets off a domino effect, right? I mean, if Darnold's on the board when Giants pick number 2, I think they would consider him. But if he's gone, I think they go with Barkley or Chubb. But, for the Jets at number 3, they're going to take a quarterback. If Darnold's there, they would take him. If not, I think Baker Mayfield makes a ton of sense. So, I think if you talk to evaluators around the league, it's interesting. There's been this top 4, Darnold, Allen, Mayfield, Rosen. The more I talk to people, it sounds like the top 3 right now are more so Darnold, Allen, and Mayfield. And then from there, it's Rosen and Lamar Jackson. What's interesting is there haven't been 5 quarterbacks drafted since 1999, and it looks like there will be 5 drafted this year, and possibly 6. Someone like Mason Rudolph could also slip up into the first round. So there's going to be a run on quarterbacks in the first round, a combination of teams having need and also sort of the urgency of the position. I think the question for a lot of evaluators is, are any of them really that elite level? And, Sean Payton told Peter King there's no Wentz or Luck in this class. So there's going to be a run on quarterbacks, but the question is the top as good as the top in years past?
Well, and talking about Lamar Jackson possibly getting into that first round as well, we know the Patriots brought him in for a visit last week. They have plenty of picks if they want to make a move and trade up for a Tom Brady successor. What are you hearing about the Pats' interest in Jackson?
Yeah, NFL Network reported that Lamar Jackson took a top 30 visit with him. It's interesting to read into top 30 visits. Sometimes they mean something, sometimes they don't. Sometimes teams like to get a look at someone they may be playing a lot. In 2014, the Patriots had Jimmy Garoppolo in for a visit, and they made him their highest draft pick under Bill Belichick. They also had Manziel and Bridgewater in for top 30 visits. But it's very possible Lamar Jackson is not there when they pick at number 23rd. It's very possible Lamar Jackson is well off the board at that point. I think it's unlikely the Patriots trade up just given the number of needs that they have. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but I think it's unlikely. They've got left tackle, the tight end with Gronkowski's future uncertain, all levels of the defense. So they have so many needs. I think they really need to come out of this year's class with a core of players. And I think trading up to get a quarterback would really put a dent into that.
After the draft, Jenny, and the NFL will hold a summit at the beginning of May for discussion about player safety, with the future of the kickoff expected to be a focus. Will the kickoff be eliminated from the sport altogether?
I think it's going that direction. I think it's not. I think it's just a matter of time when the kickoff is eliminated. I don't think it'll happen this season. I think that's a drastic change for 2018. But the data has shown that even with the NFL changing the rule to put the touchbacks on the 25-yard line, that concussions are still 5 times more likely to happen on a kickoff than any other play. So with the increased emphasis on health and safety, with rule changes moving, more and more rule changes every year to try to eliminate some of the worst, most risky plays from the game, I think it's only a matter of time until the kickoff is eliminated.
Excellent analysis, as always, from Jenny Rentis of the MMQB. Jenny, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks for having me.
A Milwaukee restaurant apologized after it was revealed on social media Giannis Antetokounmpo left when he was left waiting too long for a table. This was just after the Bucks win over the Celtics Sunday, by the way. Should Giannis have to wait to be seated?
Absolutely not. If this guy walks into a restaurant and you're throwing confetti and you're bringing him to your nicest table, especially after he was the reason that they just won this game, he's the reason people are here celebrating.
That goes for everywhere, by the way. Giannis walks into your restaurant, you sit him down, but especially in Milwaukee. If it was any other member of the Bucks, perhaps they, get him confused or like, dude, you're not doing enough in this series. But the Greek freak, they should be so happy he didn't have a freak out before leaving the restaurant.
You can't miss him. And it's not like this is Los Angeles, right? This is Milwaukee. He very much sticks out. And you saw in that picture, there's like nobody around him. Yeah. So I don't know how anybody overlooked this. And we also saw he went around the corner to a pizza restaurant. They posted him on their Instagram and said, thank you so much for coming in.
Who does get a seat? I mean, Aaron Rodgers isn't waiting, is he?
I sure hope not. It's definitely not a good look for this restaurant. They're offering to give free tacos next time to people who come in after the Bucks game if the Bucks win. So I don't know if that justifies it at all, but yeah, I don't really know about that. I think it's pretty silly. And that's not the only thing that I think is pretty silly. Remember when the UCF Knights declared themselves 2017 national champs after going 13-0 and beating Auburn in the Peach Bowl? Well, they're backing up that declaration with rings and a sign in the stadium. At the Knights spring game, they unveiled their new 2017 national champion sign, and they also got some beautiful rings. So, Robin, do you love this or do you hate this?
I love this. I love this. What's the downside? That someone like me or you might criticize them for it? Life is about memories, right? They now have this memory. Otherwise, everyone would forget about this team. No one would remember that UCF had their little championship run, as they self-titled it. So they might as well lean in, embrace it, and savor that moment, because you don't get that many kind of moments in life.
I do think it's silly, but I also think it's really fun. And like you said, there's no harm. What's the worst that can happen? Amy Campbell is going to say, why did you do this? This is ridiculous. I used to live in Orlando. I know a lot of UCF fans. They couldn't be happier that this is happening. They are so excited. They are so into this team. It's great for school spirit, especially with a program with a new head coach off of a great year. They're building a ton of momentum there in a state that there's a lot of competition for college football. I think this is great.
If they find any violations with the program, can NCAA take away their imaginary championship?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, right? I think if the NCAA doesn't award it, then I feel like they can just keep it, right?
I mean, look, they've gone full bore here. They put the entry on Wikipedia. They're celebrating here with the rings. Might as well do it, right?
I think the rings are great. I would like a ring. I would like to declare myself a national champion of Sports Illustrated, and I would like a ring.
Well, you can do it. We can put the banner down for Amy Campbell. Thanks for watching today. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. In the meantime, check out SI Now Live on Twitter for all the latest videos and updates. No ring, no banner.
Next time.